All right, if you're a movie guy like me, the best part of the fall is usually all the film festivals. But with actors and writers on strike this year, it is not a normal festival season. So, today on the podcast, if there are no stars, can Hollywood still get people excited about the movies? I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. It's September. Summer is over. I see people getting excited about going back to school. But for me, the best part of this time of year is all the big film festivals, because it is now unofficially, let's say, the start of Oscar season. Venice Film Festival is happening right now. TIFF gets going in a couple of days. And with the Hollywood actors strike still going on, the red carpets are kind of looking a little bit different. We got three film critics that are here with me now. Elena Lazic is in Venice. Teri, Hart, and Simonpillai are in Toronto. Teri, Elena, Brad, what's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Hello. So happy that you guys are here. This is going to be a good time. I can't wait to talk about movies. Ellen, I'm going to start with you because you're in Venice right now. What's the vibe? Yeah. What's the mood over there?
It's kind of great. I mean, it's kind of crazy because the festival is really front loaded with all these big premieres. Some of them are still coming up. And then it's going to start getting more quiet, like from the 6th, later on. And it's just been so intense just arriving, and suddenly you have to see all these big films. Like there's been Ferrari, and there's
that's the Adam Driver,
Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah. It's just great. Honestly, it's really vibrant, and it's not really a case that everybody agrees necessarily on every film, but everybody has strong opinions about them, which is what you want, which is more exciting.
Hey, can I ask you, for those people who are not as familiar with Venice, how does it compare to other international festivals like Cannes or like TIFF?
I would say it's interesting because in the last few years, actually, I would say the profile of Venice has kind of risen because mostly because Cannes decided they didn't want to play films made by streamers because they want to protect cinemas as establishments. So they only want to play films that play in, brick and mortar cinemas for longer, because I know that some streaming films play in cinemas for a week or whatever. Anyway, so Venice basically gets all these big streaming films. So that's why we've got The Killer, the David Fincher film, that's premiering here. And so it's kind of great for Venice because it's really not I wouldn't say raise the profile, but sort of raise the international profile at least of the festival, in the sense that there are more English language films, more like big films in English that are sort of, I guess, have a more international scope. So yeah, it's kind of different, but also Cannes maybe slightly more art house, I would say. And TIFF, I guess, is kind of more like way more commercial stuff. It's kind of films that you are going to see later on that will be part of the conversations, especially, of course, Oscar conversations. But I would say Venice is slightly more art house anyway. And it's got more international directors, like foreign language between.
I love the quotation marks are in foreign. Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Can I just say I would much rather be where Elena is right now, because she's gonna see the Sofia Coppola movie, the David Fincher movie, the Michael Mann movie, and she's right now sitting in front of a window that's really cool. It's very Venice-like, and I'm here in Toronto. Looking forward to the Craig Gillespie movie.
Okay, first of all, I don't know why Craig Gillespie is catching strays this early in the morning. But
we are going to
go ahead, Teri. Go ahead.
About the Craig Gillespie movie. My gosh, that was low.
This is
I'm a fan. I love Dumb Money.
But what I love about this is there's the energy here is very film critic humor, which is my favorite kind of humor. That's because everyone is like, what are they talking about? But if we can go into this a little bit deeper, Rad, maybe you can talk about the personalities of each festival, because there's something I think about the personality of TIFF that is kind of wildly different from the personality of Cannes, which you were at earlier, then Venice, which you are like, I wish I was there right now. Like, for example, Cannes has the whole thing that Elena just mentioned, the idea that it doesn't do movies, made by streaming services, apparently because those are not real movies, as everyone knows. So let's talk a little bit about the different personalities of those festivals.
Well, I think TIFF has always been like the Mandarin buffet of film festivals, right? Like we have something for everybody. You could try your sushi over here, your ice cream over there. You're like and then there's probably some guy doing the grill over there where the good stuff is, right? Yeah. And TIFF is like, I mean, where Cannes is this really kind of snooty, prestigious film festival, and so is Venice in some ways, and that could be problematic at times, especially when they're trying to hold up a certain old guard and whatnot. TIFF is like, well, we're more progressive. We're a people's festival. The TIFF has been always ahead of the game when it comes to including more diverse voices, including more, representative voices. And then and then also including movies that the public just wants. Like this is the festival with Midnight Madness. And this is the festival that has a People's Choice Award. And this is, and in some ways this year, it kind of just backfired because then all the auteurs, all the really like great directors decided to be at Venice instead of TIFF this year, except for say the Miyazaki and stuff like that, right? So this year it really is kind of the people's festival to the point where I feel like
I feel like one of the points that is important to include there is Toronto is a public festival. People can buy tickets and go to the movies.
Right.
So studios use the Toronto International Film Festival to see how it plays for an audience. This is not exclusively an industry festival like Cannes is, like Venice is, like Telluride is. So people talk about it being the people's festival. It actually is because people can go and see movies. This festival has changed the trajectory of a movie release. It has changed the trajectory of what a studio thinks the movie can do for award season when it's appropriate to release it because they see it play for an audience.
It's true. I'll never forget the fact that, Green Book played at TIFF and then they were like, this... We'll go on to win Best Picture, and then I will be stressed about this for the rest of my life. Elena, listen, we should timestamp this, okay? We are talking on a Friday right now. The Venice Film Festival opened on Wednesday. A lot of people are wondering if Hollywood actors who got exemptions would even show up there, because some Hollywood actors got exemptions from the strike to show up. Who would that be? How would they show up if they were there? What are you actually seeing at Venice?
Well, so far, I mean, it was kind of interesting actually to see that for Ferrari, not only did Adam Driver come to the festival, he also actually spoke about the strike, and he explained that the reason he could be here is because the film was made in accordance with all the demands from SAG-AFTRA. So, and he explained it really well. He was saying, I did it for two things, obviously to promote the movie because I love the movie and I worked hard on it, playing an Italian man for the second time. And also because it shows that it's actually possible to make a great film and follow those demands. They're not crazy demands that people are making. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I imagine that there might be other stars coming up, but it's so uncertain at the moment. I mean, I don't really know.
So I want to come back to Adam Driver in just a minute, but Teri, first we're talking about, let's return to TIFF for a moment, because even though some stars are not going to be there and it's not going to be the same level of splash that it normally makes, we're still talking about TIFF. Like this is still a significant festival. So what does a muted TIFF mean for you as a film critic?
Well, there are a couple of things that we look for when a movie comes to TIFF, like benchmarks or signals that can tip the industry off on how a studio is supporting a movie. And we're just not going to see those indicators this year. Things like how many actors they bring in to walk the carpet, to how many sit-down interviews they're doing. All of these are kind of ideas about like, ooh, they think this one might go the distance. It could also, I think, impact the responses of audiences. Because let's face it, right? Like it makes a difference when after the movie you have that moment like, ladies and gentlemen, Kate Winslet, and
it's a big moment.
And, and then you listen to a Q&A, and these are movie stars who are charming and wonderful. And they can really, those moments help build a buzz and excitement that just won't be happening for most of the Hollywood films at this year's TIFF, So I think it is going to impact that kind of, frenzy and excitement that just comes with some of the most famous people in the world being at an event that you're at.
Apparently not famous
And
enough
I think that
for
actually,
Rad. But anyway, sorry, continue, Elena.
Sorry, I just want to say, I think that's actually really interesting in the context of this thing that certain outlets and journalists do, which is to, count down, like measure how long the standing ovation is at the end of the film. Or not the standing ovation, but the clapping.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I actually, because I mostly go to press screenings, so I loads of people actually do clap at the press screenings, but I don't do it because I think it's weird. But in the public screenings, when people do it, it's because the stars are here, like the people who made the film are here.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, if they're not here, are they going to clap the same way? I don't know. But people are still, they're still reporting on the clapping time. So I don't really know what that means. Yeah, it's interesting.
Now that's a thing I'm going to be thinking about every single TIFF screening that I go to. Rad, we also got to talk about the big TIFF story that is making headlines, which is ticket scalping. Like TIFF tickets are being resold for as high as $400. What is happening there?
I mean, that's always been the case. Like TIFF tickets have always been scalped. I mean, going back for more than a decade, and up. Like I remember tickets like from 2009 going for $400 or $500 when it was a George Clooney movie, right? So
wow.
I don't think that's news. Last year we had Taylor Swift here for an in conversation. And those
buddy, don't I know it?
Don't you know? Did you pay $2,500 for your tickets?
No, but I was there. No, I was a better. Yeah.
So there you go. So that I think that's always been the case, and I think it's been kind of blown up because I feel like the scalpers didn't realize how hard it's going to be to sell tickets to a starless TIFF, or where the star question is a question mark. Because right now I saw tickets for dumb money on StubHub.
That's
for
a Craig Gillespie movie.
The Craig Gillespie movie referred to earlier.
Yeah.
$1,200 to $1,600 on StubHub, which makes no sense because that is actually a studio movie. So Seth Rogen, Paul Dano won't be there, y'all, and they're trying to sell these tickets for $1,200 to $1,600. If anyone buys, that truly is dumb money right there. The movie's coming around. The movie's coming to theaters in 2 weeks, right? If you're gonna buy that, but then you have these other situations where the Jessica Chastain movie. Jessica Chastain could actually show up. Those are StubHub's trying to sell them for $140, but
sure.
Ticketmaster still has tickets for $80. What y'all doing? There's still tickets for one of the biggest starry performances is Lil Nas X, and there's still tickets available for reasonably priced things. So I think people didn't realize that they're gonna they wouldn't be able to sell these as much as for as high as they hoped.
Well, you know what? It may be in that context then worth talking about the fact that the opening night film is The Boy and the Heron, which is the animated movie by the legendary Japanese director Miyazaki. Variety says tickets are going for $388 on StubHub, and Miyazaki's not coming to Toronto, so he's not going to be there. Why are people willing to pay such massive prices, Rad?
So I love, first of all, that they made it's the Miyazaki film, it's the opening night film. People don't care if Miyazaki's not going to be there. They want to be there for that event, and they will pay those prices for that event. Yeah, as an event. And it's actually interesting because I know I was flagging the fact that we don't really have any auteurs coming to town, but it's interesting to see how some of the hottest tickets are the auteur movies like Miyazaki or Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest. Those are the ones that are selling at pretty high prices on resale sites. But also, again, it's an event, right? I think the reason people are coming out still for TIFF is it's kind of like going out for a Mervis show. You're not just going for a movie. You're going for the atmosphere. You're going for a night out where you could dress up. You're going to join fellow people who love movies this much and appreciate the art. You're going for good projection because, if you don't see a movie at TIFF, chances are you're going to get some pretty shoddy projection if you wait to see the movie in a multiplex later on. So you're going for all of the things all of the quality control that comes with a film festival.
The only thing I need to wake me up in the morning is a Rad rant about projection. That's really the stuff that gets me going in the morning. Teri, what do you think when you heard that TIFF tickets were being scalped?
I mean, it just seems to be the way it is now, the resale price.
Yeah.
And it's gross, right? It's awful. It's not good for the festival. It's not good for movie fans. It's a bad precedent. I don't remember tickets being sold. I mean, listen, the Taylor Swift, $2,500, she is in a league of her
Sounds
own.
Sounds cheap,
in
to be
terms
honest.
of,
It's a pretty good deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, why didn't I pay that? But, the criticism, I think, is that TIFF is using Ticketmasters to sell their tickets.
Sure.
And, there was a tweet from a film editor by the name of Amy Duddleston, and she said that literally all Ticketmaster has to do is make resale only possible through their platform and then not allow to sell more than what the initial cost was. So
it's not that hard for Ticketmaster to do that. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
It seems that they can stop this but they aren't. And I'm going to add to the list. It's not just the Dumb Money movie, which, geez, Rad.
This is the best advertisement possible for Dumb Money, directed by Craig Gillespie, by the way.
Listen, yes. I have a prediction about Dumb Money that I don't think Rad's going to like. But that also, the Taika Waititi movie is also being sold for, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So there are a few in there.
It's for a festival that we call
Next Goal Wins.
For a festival that we call the People's Festival. That's shockingly high prices. I don't know who the people are paying that. But okay, let's talk about the actual movies. Ellen, I'm going to start with you. You're in Venice right now. Ellen, you got the advantage here. There are a few movies that you've seen that you can talk about. You've seen Ferrari, the Michael Mann movie starring Adam Driver. What'd you think?
So I was obviously anticipating that film like crazy. I love Michael Mann. I love his films in all their sort of garish sincerity and high gloss. Yeah, I love them so much. But I was a bit disappointed. It's a shame. I'm not happy to report this. No, it gives me no pleasure. But I mean, it's no one's fault in the cast or anything. Even though like most of the main cast is not at all Italian. And everybody's doing an Italian accent, including Adam Driver, way more than he did in Ridley Scott's House of Gucci, which is interesting. There's even an interesting thing where even the dialogue, which is in English, is in a way Italian. It's like translated Italian. There are like tons of phrases that just you would never say in English, which is really fascinating. But that's like an element of like the style that the film is doing. It actually works. I swear that's not why I didn't like it. It's actually really interesting. But overall, I just found the film quite messy and like unfocused, which I think is quite shocking coming from Michael Mann. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because it's based on a true story and he has to, hit those specific beats. But yeah, it just didn't really work for me. Loads of people really liked it. So, definitely seek it out. But yeah.
I refuse to believe you, Elena.
You don't have to. Do not take my word for it. Like, take my word for it.
I was
Please
like,
watch it.
Will it finally be time for us to call any movie that isn't Collateral the best Michael Mann movie? But no, it turns out still Collateral maybe. I want to talk a little about Adam Driver because he spoke at a press conference in Venice and he called out Netflix and Amazon. Let's hear a bit of that.
Why is it that a distribution company, a smaller distribution company like Neon and STX International, can meet the dream demands of what SAG is asking for? And this is pre-negotiation, the dream version of SAG's wish list, but a big company like Netflix and Amazon can't. And every time people from SAG go and support a movie that has agreed to these terms, the interim agreement, it just makes it more obvious that these people are willing to support the people that they collaborate with and the others are not. So when this opportunity came up, it seemed like understanding the interim agreement, it's a no-brainer for all of these reasons why you want to support your union, and I'm here because of that, to support stand in solidarity with them by showing up and just further proving the point that it really is about the people that you make it with.
First of all, that Adam Driver quote, let me just explain to you a little bit of what he's talking about there. The movie that he made, Ferrari, is being produced by a smaller production company. It's a part of sort of this interim agreement that SAG made to basically get an exemption from the strike. And so he can do publicity for this movie while lots of other actors who are in big movies, they can't do that. Teri, do you think you're going to see more actors speaking about the strike, maybe at Venice or TIFF?
Absolutely. And I mean, firstly, that is the longest I've ever heard Adam Driver speak in any interview.
Ever.
Like in one solid clip.
I know, 100%.
Ever. So thanks for that. And he did a great job of explaining it. So, absolutely everybody who shows up, who falls under that interim agreement, they're for sure going to be asked about the strike. That's what journalists are going to ask them about if they're given the chance. And secondly, SAG-AFTRA wants them to. So just to kind of drill down a little bit more, Elamin, in terms of that interim agreement that Adam was talking about, and it comes from the union and it allows actors to promote movies that were made independently from companies belonging to the AMPTP.
Yeah.
And those agreed to terms proposed by SAG-AFTRA. So they were already doing what SAG-AFTRA wants them to do and what their, contention points are within this strike right now. Mm-hmm. So it really does show, I think, that the unions has flexibility in wanting their members to support their work and showing that what they're asking for isn't unrealistic. I think Elena was saying that earlier, that Adam really kind of delineated that point and made that interim agreement really kind of digestible, understandable, and allows everybody to know that they're not asking for extraordinary things. What they're asking for is already being done by small independent producers.
Rad, when you see, like the fact that like Anna Kendrick, for example, a pretty famous actor, but she's directing a movie that's going to be a TIFF. Do you imagine she's going to use the platform she's given to also talk about the strike?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because so here's the thing, right? When Adam Driver did what he did, right? He basically gave the green light to all the stars who were on the fence, because everyone knew about the interim agreements. Everyone knew that it was possible, but all of them were still unsure about the optics. But Adam Driver just dunked on the studios, took his opportunity to dunk on the studios, and showed everyone how. Like, if you want the hall pass, this is how you do it. You dunk on the studios every opportunity you get. Anna Kendrick is really good at dunking on people, so she's definitely going to take that opportunity to do it. And and every star who's on the fence, whether it was like Kate Winslet stuff, I really do feel now it's kind of like that. A lot of stars will now attend TIFF because now they have they know exactly how to do it. I feel like say if a Kate Winslet was unsure. This is gonna now it's because there were still a lot of people who were on the fence. I feel like now that they have the model of how to do it, it was a bit like the Golden Globes last year. Remember how a lot of people were like, I don't know whether to go to Golden Globes because they have this icky history, and so everyone's like, but then if that person's going, then maybe I'll go, or if they're going, they all win. I think that's what's going to happen with TIFF now. We're going to get a lot of people come in and dunk on the studios.
I think it's different, not because the sentiment has changed and not because Adam didn't do exactly what you're saying he did. I agree with that for sure, Rad. But who all of a sudden is figuring out the budget for them to come here? Who's getting the hotel rooms? Like all of this infrastructure. So I know for a fact
studios already bought plane tickets and hotel rooms hoping they will show up. So
interesting. Okay.
There you go. So the tickets were bought.
That's
just in case we change their minds at the last minute, they can still make it.
That's a fun potential.
So they can afford to do that, but they can't afford to,
Yeah, exactly.
Elena, we got to shift gears for a moment and talk about the fact that Venice is screening new movies by Roman Polanski, by Woody Allen, by Luc Besson. Polanski is a convicted sex offender. Allen and Besson have been accused of being sexual predators. I don't think they're all attending in person, but what do you think the significance is of their movies being at the Venice Festival?
Well, I mean, I think the significance for Venice is pretty obvious. It's publicity, whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, it's definitely publicity.
Yes.
And there's also definitely, I mean, these are directors of a certain, standard in this sort of history of cinema. They kind of respected, maybe Besson slightly less, with good reason, in terms of his talent. But, they're like sort of established directors that some people still, respect and love their movies. So it's like a way, it's kind of almost like an easy way to get really famous directors that some people still really care about. Some people don't even know what they've done. There are loads of people out there who have no idea about any allegations, any convictions of any of these people, and were just like, oh, I love films by this guy. So that's one way. And obviously no other festival is going to, take them, or at least definitely not TIFF. TIFF would never do this.
No.
TIFF is so right on that, wouldn't even play a film that's kind of like potentially, sexist or whatever, like to a degree that I think sometimes is problematic. Not problematic is a bad word, but anyway, you catch my meaning.
Yeah.
But then I guess the significance for everyone else, like for me, for example, being there, for example, I am going to review the Woody Allen movie. And there are maybe a few years ago, I wouldn't have wanted to do that. I would have asked for someone else to do it. But now I feel like it's kind of become such an inevitable aspect of our work. Like there's just so many people, either with allegations or actually convicted, that we can't just, ignore their films. And it's very different for me to watch a film at a festival and write about it than it is for someone to go and buy a ticket, or someone to, distribute the film, or someone to produce the film. So this is all things that, are obviously constantly at work in my mind, and many of my colleagues as well. But I think it's really important as well that to not put all these people necessarily in the same basket, because Polanski was convicted. Woody Allen and Luc Besson have not been convicted. There are allegations. And if we start, putting them all in the same basket, it can get really dangerous. But at the same time, we cannot rely 100% on like the law, because we all know that the law is very fallible when it comes to allegations. So it's just really horrible, because it puts everyone, viewers, critics, in this horrible position of having to make a decision for themselves, which, is really difficult. But at the same time, it is in a way very personal, I think. And there's a sense that we definitely should always keep talking about it and keep debating it, because I don't think there's ever going to be like one solution that just applies to every case. But at the same time, it's like, it has to remain a sort of conversation, I think. But then in terms of like, a festival choosing to play those films, that's pretty unambiguously, pretty negative in my book.
Well, I want to go into that actually, because I think it's really interesting, the idea that like each festival might have a different set of how they judge these situations, the willingness of each festival to get into, bad headlines for screening a certain film. Maybe, Rad, I'll put this to you about this idea of, if you go into programming a festival trying to avoid the bad headlines that might be involved with like getting a film by a certain person that has a cloud over them, do you end up missing on like a large amount of good art that does belong to your festival? How do you think festivals should navigate this?
I mean, it's tricky, and I know it's like, when you go down that route, you don't know where it ends. You don't know, what you end up like, especially when you're talking about film and it's such a communal effort, whose other efforts are you ignoring by then vilifying the film for that one person? So I know that gets tricky. And so I don't know how that I have like any kind of definitive answer on that. I actually do admire TIFF for doing that and trying that, and I think it's a worthy and valiant effort. And then I'll flip it to the other ways. When you look at these festivals like Venice programming Woody Allen, like, why not just not program Woody Allen, because his movies have sucked for 20 years? When you're programming Woody Allen, when Venice is programming Woody Allen, or when Cannes is opening with the Johnny Depp movie, they're not doing it because those movies were good. They're doing it to make the opposite point. They're doing it because they want to make a statement that we will stand by these artists no matter what they have done. You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing. It's like, we are in this kind of cultural war. These film festivals are part of the culture, and what they do, I mean, it's not like what they're doing is like some kind of like, it's not law. They could kind of shift culture in certain ways by their choices.
Teri, to that point, it's true that film festivals could navigate that in that way. But even if they did program those things, would you be the kind of critic who would be there to review those films if a festival ended up programming them?
I mean, I really agree with Elena. Like, I don't think that you can make a one statement for everything. Yeah. I think the fact that all of Elena's points I take to heart, and I think I totally agree with her. It's also, your job as a film critic is to let people know what is being out there and what their options are. So if you put your own moral code on that, at what point does that moral code slip into other decisions that you make as a film critic? And with just, removing yourself from the conversation, not then writing with your own point of view after seeing what the movie is. And I think that that's a really complicated part. I mean, TIFF not only would never program these movies. I agree with both Rad and Elena, but they also, severed relationship with a sponsor that is controversially, building on Ontario Place that is supported by the provincial government right now. So TIFF is really on a side, a trajectory aside of doing the quote unquote right thing. And I think we saw that again this year with their removing their relationship with Therma Spas.
That is a story that I was not even remotely on my radar. Here's what we're going to do. This is going to be a little bit tough to do because you guys are all very enthusiastic film critics. But I'm going to get you to try to rein it in and try to maybe recommend a couple of movies that are on your radar for the festival. Ellen, I'll start with you. You are in Venice. What other movies are on your radar? You talked about maybe Sofia Coppola.
Yes, I'm very excited to see Priscilla, the new Sofia Coppola film about Priscilla Presley, wife of Elvis. Which I'm really curious about because Sofia Coppola makes loads of films about women who are constantly, obviously, like most women, I guess, juggling power, their own power and other people's power, and belonging to people. And all these things. But she makes these films in such a way that they might look like they wouldn't be so, not aggressive, but so, tough about that subject, but they are. So I'm really excited to see that about Priscilla Presley.
Yeah.
David Fincher's The Killer, obviously. Always look forward to new David Fincher film.
Yes.
This is about a hitman. So, if that's bad, I'm going to be really upset. And then there's actually, to talk about some like non-English stuff, there's the new film by the Japanese director Ryosuke Hamaguchi called Evil Does Not Exist. He's an amazing director. He did this film Drive My Car and Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which I think were both 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited. He's a genius.
Drive My Car was absolutely incredible. Rad, try to do this relatively quickly, pal. What's on your radar?
There's this Saudi Arabian movie called Naga about a young girl sneaking off to go to a party, and then she has to get stranded in the desert, has to make her way home with all these terrifying, misogynistic, obstacles in her path. Yeah. I mean, I'm just basing it on the TIFF notes. This is a movie that was programmed in Midnight Madness and Next Wave, which is both good signs. And in the program notes, Peter Kaplowski described it. He compared it to Scorsese's After Hours and the Safdie Brothers' Good Time, and I'm like, that all sounds good. So I didn't know anything about it going into it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Also, Kitty Green's new movie, The Royal Hotel. Kitty Green, she made The Assistant, which was like a really solid take on what it's like to work for a Weinstein type of figure. Yeah. So her follow-up is also starring, what's that girl's name?
Julia Garner.
There you go. It's also starring Julia Garner. But like in a North Country sort of thing where she arrives at a mining town, has to deal with more toxic workplace shenanigans.
I really appreciated Rad being like, what's that girl's name? And Terry was like, I got you, bro. I can handle this. Let's go. Terry, what's on your radar?
I'm really, really looking forward to Molly McGlynn's sophomore effort called Fitting In.
Hey, my homie. Love that woman.
I was, love her too. I was a big fan of Mary Goes Round, and this is a very personal story to her, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to see Rad's head blow off right now because I think the Craig Gillespie movie, Dumb Money, could be a breakthrough at the festival. Yeah, I said it. With my full chest. That's what I did.
I'm rooting for you, Terry. I am. I really am.
Thanks, John. Sing Sing, Coleman Domingo. Like that looks like it's got everything, checks a whole lot of boxes that appeal to me. And there's a whole whack load of Canadian movies that I am completely stoked. Oh, I got to mention Alexander Payne. Is it going to be his comeback? I hope so. He's reunited with Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, back in a school setting like Election. I think it could work, and I'm hoping because I want to like Alexander Payne again. Canadian movies, Queen of My Dreams sounds great. Back Spot, I really can't wait for. And I don't know who you are. All three of those are top of my list.
Can I just say what's amazing about this is I asked for like a couple from each of you, and you were like, I'm going to actually name 8 each, because I love that, because like that's what happens in festival season. Like it is this giant buffet of just getting to enjoy everything that is on offer, because you don't know where those movies are going to go. You don't know how much energy or support they will get, and opportunities to talk about them later on. And I loved your energy, Terry, Rad, Elena. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. You made me excited for TIFF.
Of course. See you guys soon. Thank you.
It's my 28th. It's my 28th, guys. So I better have figured it out by now.
And dude, you're going to rock it. It's going to be a great time. Okay, thanks everybody. Elena Lazic is a freelance film writer based in London, UK, and the founder and editor of Animus Magazine. She was in Venice. Teri Hart is an entertainment reporter at Super Channel. And Rad Simonpillai is a film critic with CBC and CTV. We reach them both in Toronto. The Venice International Film Festival is on right now, and TIFF kicks off this Thursday, September 7th. And that is it for the show. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. I will see you tomorrow.